Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes, and here are the four big stories for today. So, the Rada, that's their Congress in Ukraine, is adopting its draft law on mobilization. They're gone through their first reading. They're tightening up the bill, trying to give relief to those who have been fighting all this time and create a new wave of mobilization in Ukraine. It's coming very soon. Russians have been just pounding away at Kyiv and other cities. Ukraine's Air Force said it intercepted only 15 out of 20 drones and only 29 out of 44 missiles. That leaves 5 killed and 50 injured. At the same time, however, there was a big boom, a big explosion in Russia, about 1,000 kilometers east of Moscow at a technical works machine plant building. This plant is on the EU sanctioned list because it creates pieces for and ammunition for the Iskander and Tachka U. It's a pretty remarkable thing. It's verifiable. It's not just on Twitter. Massive explosion reported near Russian city that's home to missile production plant. Again, 1,000 kilometers east of Moscow. So that's pretty significant. I don't know how they blew it up, but yeah, it's a big thing. And here it is on the map. Here's Moscow, here's where it was, and here's Ukraine. So it's significant. Okay, now to the dysfunctional politics in the United States part of this. U.S. Border Patrol endorses the Senate immigration deal because it will improve things. It won't improve things as much as the Republicans want, but it would improve things. So 2 days later, maybe, here are the 3 House Republicans who torpedoed Mayorkas's impeachment vote because the Republicans went and pushed forward Mayorkas's impeachment. Mayorkas is the Secretary of Homeland Security, and they thought this was a good time to impeach him as not doing his job and refusing to comply with federal immigration laws and violating the public trust. Now, the House voted mostly along party lines. Democrats remained united against the measure, Republicans for it, except for 3 that voted against it. So these were Tom McClintock and Ken Buck and Mike Gallagher voted against it. And then the 4th person voted against it so that he could say, I voted against it, but I'm going to call it back to the floor. It's just a little political trick that they do. So Representative Blake Moore of Utah voted no, but that's because he switched his vote at the last minute in a procedural move that would allow him to bring the resolution back to the floor. This happens all the time, but this was a terrible time to be engaging in this kind of behavior when you're trying to make the deal. I think this was more politics than it was policy. Although the policy is there, they want them to enforce it. At the same time, the House fails to pass a standalone Israel bill. Now, this had me scratching my head. Why they would put this forward at this time, I don't understand, especially when they needed the number of votes that they needed. The House failed to pass a clean $17.6 billion Israel aid bill on Tuesday. The measure to aid the U.S. ally in its war against Hamas went down 250 to 180. Well, what? And because it was an expedited procedure, they needed 2/3 support, and they were never going to get it. It's kind of like what happened here with Mayorkas's impeachment. They know even if they impeach him, the Senate's never going to remove him. They just don't have the votes. So why do it? I'm not sure that I have an answer for that, but it just wasn't going to happen. Okay, last little bit. The Senate then also blocks a bipartisan $118 billion bill on the U.S.-Mexico border in Ukraine. So what happened there? The vote was 49 to 50. 45 Democrats and 4 Republicans supporting the bill's advancement. 60 votes are needed to begin debate on the bill in the Senate. So this one I could see coming, and I understand. So this bill, to vote no against it causes them to have to go back and negotiate again, and that's kind of understandable. But most of the Republican conference was opposed to the bill's advancement, complaining that the legislation did not go far enough in addressing the crisis at the Mexican border. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York initially voted for the bill and then changed his vote to no, a procedural maneuver that would allow the chamber to revisit the proposal in the future. So both parties, both sides do this kind of thing fairly regularly, but they're way into gridlock here. I'm not sure what'll happen here moving forward. But again, you people will ask me, well, you're too optimistic. Nothing's going to happen. No, they're going to run into this, and it's almost like little kids trying to muscle each other on the playground. That's kind of what's taking place here. And then eventually they'll figure out a way forward and they'll move it with it. But right now they're still tussling and muscling on the playground. It's unfortunate because the need is dire. If there's only 15 out of 20 drones intercepted and 29 out of 44 missiles, part of it is pulling their punches because they can't shoot everything down if they don't have, replacements coming behind it. If you watch the video that I just posted this afternoon from Greg Terry, what's happening on the front line, they're pulling their punches with artillery too. This needs to get done, and it needs to get done quickly, but they're just not making this the priority that it needs to be. Okay, that's all that I have today. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.